What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. It is no longer the Browns' regular season. We are no longer bringing you updates on game scores and predictions and stuff like that. We are into the offseason, and we are already in full swing. If you didn't know, Joe Woods out of here last week early. Very first thing they did Monday after they lost Sunday. And now this week, yesterday, right, Jeff?
Today, I think they officially announced it today, but yeah, it was confirmed yesterday.
Okay, yeah. So, confirmed today by the Browns in the facility. Jim-Schwartz is your new defensive coordinator for your Cleveland Browns. Going to talk a lot about not his presser because Jeff and I were both working, so didn't get to catch all of it, but we will go off of some tweets from Mary Kay here, and we'll just kind of get into it, kind of see where things take us. But Jeff, I know when we talked about it, Schwartz was not at the top of our list. He was actually at the bottom of four guys that we had talked about, or not the bottom, but bottom half.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling now, and what have you been able to kind of like gather from the press conference and from Twitter?
So after the Patriots said no to that, basically they were going to keep Mayo.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically the middle. I think Flores was at the top for a lot of people. It's just one of those things where do you really know what these guys really do behind the scenes? Besides, you could gather their leadership and what they've done in their past track records, but still there's multiple variables there. Whatever. My biggest thing is I hope the rest of the decision-making this offseason follows this style. Get rid of Joe Woods. How long did it take? A week? That was it. Make decisive moves. So, because if you're reading the writing on the wall, this is plausibly one of your last chances. For sure, I think a lot of people think it's Stefanski's last chance. Barry, I don't know. You might be up in the air. Barry might have a little bit more security. Not that Stefanski's making the decision, but if they want to leak the whole offseason like this, like, hey, we're looking to get a wide receiver, 48 hours later, we have what we've traded for a wide receiver, I'm cool with it. Make the decisive move. It's a guy with a lot of track record. I'm not going to be too high or too low on this decision right now, but at least they figured it out and got it done. He has a whole lot of time before the season actually starts.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's got the team in general has a lot of time before anything starts. Obviously, free agency, the draft, OTAs, whatnot. So there's going to be a lot going on in terms of talking about personnel and talking about what are the next necessary steps for this team moving forward. Obviously, that's probably going to be the free agency or obviously maybe filling out the defensive staff, depending on which. Another thing that we'll get into right now. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that moving forward, the team should, hopefully be direct about. Moving forward, though, with Schwartz, Jeff, we're going to be taking bits and pieces away from the press conference. I understand that neither one of us were able to listen full in depth. So if we take something out of context, hit us in the comments. Let us know that we were wrong about something or that we didn't get 100% of the message through. But the only thing I want to say before we move on is that I think this was very telling, and this was one of the things from the press conference, is that Schwartz talked about his time in Philadelphia when he won a Super Bowl. He was there from the time of 2016 to 2020 as a defensive coordinator. They won the Super Bowl, obviously, with Nick Foles in was it 2016 or was it 2017?
One of those.
Either year, Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator. The other person in Philadelphia at that time, one Andrew Berry, who is now the GM for the Browns. Jeff, what does this tell you about Berry kind of like going ahead and making this move, like, almost instantaneously after the interview? Do you think he just has that much faith in Schwartz, or do you think that the other interviews didn't go as well? What do you think happened there?
I think it just shows that Barry has inroads in the NFL community, which is good. I like to see, and that's maybe one of the biggest takeaways from this hire, regardless of what Jim Schwartz does with the Browns or anything of that nature. But Yeah, I think the ties definitely go deep. Seems like maybe they had a stable relationship in Philadelphia. Maybe that puts him over the top for some candidates, and maybe that got him in the building to begin with. Maybe he doesn't take the interview if Andrew Berry isn't affiliated with the Browns. As far as the press conference, though, like you said, from what we've heard, it sounded like it wasn't bad. It sounded like it went well, and with that Browns nature, they really aren't going to say anything tangible. They're going to give you the cliches, the platitudes, but it sounded like he had good things to say about the fans. It sounded like he did his building that trust up front, which that's what I'd be doing. I mean, it sounds corny, and I'm sure that the quotes, some people probably like roll their eyes like, oh, another guy that's just saying stuff. We'll wait to see the production, which is a valid point, but I'd be going in there and having a similar type of press conference that Jim Schwartz did today. So got to respect it, I think, at face value.
Yeah, at face value, I definitely respect it. I think there will be one thing that I agree with that I saw. I think it was Aaron Goldhammer, maybe, or someone from 850 ESPN. But they were talking about like, hey, the press conference went really well. He sounded really good. Blah blah blah. But we've been winning press conferences for the past 25 years. So
Correct.
hopefully, and
We have a lot of them. We have more than an average team. So yeah.
we probably have more than 25 press conferences, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
But I think in terms of just hearing what he said, I like a lot of the things as well. Holding your best players accountable. I don't want to hear Myles Garrett middle of the season be like, we need someone to get behind 2 years in a row, because we heard it a year ago and we heard it 2 years ago. So hopefully now they go out, they get Schwartz. It really seems like he doesn't kind of give a shit about a lot of things, about like outside noise. There was a question to him about like, what is your opinion on analytics? And he says, there's never enough too much information, but you got to be able to keep what's like influential in your mind and the noise out of there. So
that's the correct answer as well.
Yeah, and I just think that there's, I think a lot of the things he said is good. But more importantly for me is like the track record. When did he, how long has he been doing this? Has he had success? Has he had, the not the accolades, but the praise from how you're talking about with Andrew Berry. He has inroads places, and you're in the NFL and everything, and you'd hope that every time Schwartz has to go find a new job for whatever reason it may be, hopefully he's got guys behind him going to bat for him, saying, hey, don't miss out on this guy. Which him coming in for the interview and seemingly getting it almost right away is a great kind of indicator of that. But if you didn't know where or when Jim Schwartz got his start in coaching, he started as a graduate assistant at the linebacker position at Maryland in 1989. This man is old, and he's been doing it for a pretty long time. Mm-hmm. So
he's been in the NFL since '93, I believe.
Yes, since the Browns and Bill Belichick was their head coach. So yes, 1993 was when he came and was a personnel scout for the Browns. Then he went to Baltimore, became an outside linebackers coach, went to Tennessee, became the defensive assistant in 1999. Then in 2000 became the linebackers coach. Then in 2001 until 2008 was the defensive coordinator for the Titans. Then was the head coach for the Lions from 2009 to 2013. The defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills again, and then the Philadelphia Eagles in 2016 and 2020, winning a Super Bowl, then going back to Tennessee and being known for his run-stopping ability as a defensive coordinator. So, Jeff, hearing all that, you feel a little bit better? You feel better about him than you did about Joe Woods?
Too early to tell.
Joe Woods came from that San Francisco 49ers background when they went to the Super Bowl.
This guy definitely has a lot more experience than Joe Woods, and I just think it seems that dominoes kind of fell our way. It's going to be a really good offseason for coordinators to move to coaches, or coordinators to move from, maybe position coaches move to coordinators, etc. So I think that gives you an extra reason to move on from Joe Woods. Not that we weren't going to move on from anyway, but good time to do it. There's some interesting things about Schwartz that I've seen on the Twitterverse today. It seems like he plays a lot of man defense.
Okay.
That's fine. I think that if you play to strengths, that's going to be good. What you brought up makes valid points where not only if you have guys who are going to say, okay, this might be a good hire, does he have, and I know that it can't be a very much because I don't think coordinators have very much pull as far as talent. Will he bring people? Is he going to bring one person in that could make a difference? I don't know.
You're such a fucking genius, Jeff, because one of the players that was named during, or while I was on Twitter, was a former OSU player. Oh, wait, no. Oh, God, I've screwed this up horribly. I've lost the tweet. Anyways, Jeff talking about bringing in former players. Jenkins.
Malcolm Jenkins.
Yes. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't figure it out. Malcolm Jenkins had a ton of praise for him when he was, I believe, spending his time in Philadelphia. And that's one thing where it's like, hey, if a player's coming out and saying that about your defensive coordinator and giving you praise, it's something for the rest of us to look forward to. But hey, I'd take a Malcolm Jenkins. I'd take anyone from Tennessee that's a defensive tackle at this point, because
right.
They seem to have done
if there's
well.
one player around the league who's like a free agent or could be like a low hanging fruit trade target that is influenced by Jim-Schwartz, which I feel like Flores could have been maybe a little bit similar, maybe any of these guys, maybe Desai, you never know. But it's just, and I tweeted this out as soon as we hired him, he's really not going to matter if the personnel doesn't improve. Even if it's like a minor improvement, slight improvement, It has to improve somewhere, specifically the defensive line, because the front and the linebackers, any coach is going to have their hands full with these guys. Sure, you have younger pieces. Of course, you have Myles Garrett to build off of, which is always nice, convenient, helpful. But the linebackers are not very good, and the good ones are hurt or they're coming off injury, and injury prone, and you just have a bunch of inexperienced young guys who we literally drafted last year on the defensive line: Alex Wright, Isaiah Thomas, Perion Winfrey. So where do you go from there?
Yeah, lots of young guys with a whole lot of no experience. And you can say that, you say that about the D-line, but the linebackers are just as bad, just like you were talking about. Anthony Walker, who was your starter for the past 2 years, gets hurt. Season-ending injury this year, awful. Jacob Phillips steps up, season-ending injury again. He has another one. He's a very injury-prone player. Sione Takitaki, very unfortunate for him. He might come back on a small deal, but he's one of those guys who he made it all the way to the 5th year, season-ending injury. So we're in a pretty difficult spot. There's a lot of holes that I think need to be filled at a starter's point, not even a rotational point right now, but we're talking about, trying to get at least 2 starters in the D-line and 2 starters in the linebacking core. And I think you're sitting on every other position defensively and trying to just build depth. But I think Schwartz will bring at least 2 guys in. Not 2 studs, maybe 1, but not, 2 guys.
Right.
One that he's got, maybe like I feel like a lot of coaches always find one player where they kind of use them as like a handy tool, kind of like your switchblade, where your cornerbacks. This is kind of like where I've been hoping Greg Newsome would get to, is like he'd be the, or maybe even AJ Green, the faster corners. Denzel's fast, but you're not going to blitz him. But I'd hope that you get guys from Schwartz that are unique. They bring something that's different, something that the team doesn't already have. I feel like we don't have a voice. So I'd love for us to get one, but Anthony Walker, John Johnson, Myles Garrett, I guess, are your 3 most vocal guys, and they're secondary linebackers, D-line. So you'll just have to deal with it. But Jeff, I think we've talked enough about Schwartz for now. We're gonna have something else out for him, I believe, later. But with that all being said, what else do you think should be, talked about?
I think just with the circumstances of the roster and the team and the timeline, this guy is not an idiot. He's been doing this for 30 years. So he's
longer than most of us have been born.
He's not only been a head coach, but he's been a defensive coordinator. And I really do think, unless I'm just completely missing somebody, but is this the first guy on the staff who is going to have like a major role that knows more than Stefanski? He does. He'll have more experience. He'll know more, which I like.
Yeah.
If he comes to you or if Barry comes to him, go to him with decisions. If you're doing something in this offseason, which we'll talk about in a separate video, but if you go to him and say, hey, I don't know, let's just insert edge rusher here, insert D tackle. We're going to flip MJ Emerson for this edge who's going to give us a chance to win. And Schwartz says yes, just roll with the guy. If he says, I want to win interior defensive line more than the cornerbacks because we have so many of them, you're just going to have to go to him for decision makings because at this point, this is what you're going to have to do. Do I want to trade MJ Emerson? No. Do I want to part ways with a guy like Greg Newsome? No. But will it may be a possibility to win down the road this season? Absolutely. So build the defense how Jim Schwartz wants it, and then go and get the players from there. If he wants to win at the cornerback position, keep everyone intact. Go on with your life.
Great point, Jeff. Honestly, you bring that up. Where do
you
think
have
he
to.
ranks?
If we suck this year, it's over.
Where do you think he ranks in terms of like the power of coaches right now? Because I think he's at 2. With you saying that, I've got to believe he's at 2 because we don't know what Van Pelt's doing.
Van Pelt talks to nobody. Prefer has the play. Prefer's thing is that I would walk around the facility if I was Prefer, be like, I have the playoff win. But I mean, that's it. That's it.
That's amazing. That's what you would hold over him if you
absolutely. If Stefanski lashed out at me, I'd be like, I have the playoff win.
Do you think that's what he did in that exit interview? He's like, you fire me, I'll go and tell everyone I won that.
Well,
no,
I guess he's sticking around, so he did something in the exit interview.
Oh, my Lord. Well, that's a great way to end it. If you guys all made it to the end here, please make sure you are liking, subscribing, hitting the bell notification, and leaving some comments. Like I said before, if we missed something, if there was something that I misconstrued, misinterpreted, please let me know in the comments. We're going to go and, we all have lives. We're all working, so we're all going to try and go catch a little bit of it now. But with that all being said, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.